do this.
We're here at Gamescom 2025 and we're at the Capcom booth where we've checked out Pragmata, as you can see here. Matt, what the hell is Pragmata?
It's Capcom's first new IP for a while, and you play as a guy called Hugh, who's the guy in the spacesuit with all the armor on it. And basically, it's a third-person shooter that's a little bit more weird than you'd normally expect, because you have like this weird kid on your shoulder, and she hacks things for you.
Oh, she's an android though, specifically, right?
Yeah,
an android.
Not an actual kid. Like it's not kind of child endangerment in space or anything. But yeah, essentially the idea is every enemy has to be hacked before you can damage them.
Yeah.
So the way that this happens is you aim down sights, and when you do that, like a grid appears on screen, and it's basically kind of like a small hacking mini game where you have to go from like point A to point B, snake it around using the face buttons to get this line to the exit point, and then when that happens, essentially you're all weapons free, and you can damage the enemy with your variety of guns that you pick up.
Yeah, so interestingly, I noticed as well, that may sound like intense to a person, like having to, before you even fire a shot, having to do this mini game, but the enemies, well, at least what we've played, are quite slow moving, and Plodden, so it gives you a nice window to like actually focus on the mini game while you're doing it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I think they've kind of had to rethink how shooting works in a third-person shooter. It's not like Vanquish or kind of something like Doom Eternal, where the way that they rethought how shooting would work is they sped things up. This actually really slows things down. So from what we played, you were only going up against like maybe 2 enemies at a time, and because you're only up against 2 enemies, you've got that time to go through the mini game. The harder the enemies are, the kind of harder the mini game becomes, but never really that challenging. That's my only kind of like concern of what we've played so far, is after you've done it like 2 or 3 times, it sort of instantly becomes second nature to do those mini games. I do worry that like it's put an extra cog in the machine, but is that really going to make a massive difference to the way this plays?
Yeah, I think it felt unique and different at first, but even from our demo, which was what, about 15 minutes or so, I kind of already found myself getting a bit tired of the process, and I'm wondering what they can do in the later game to like really spice up that thing. Obviously what we saw in the demo is that you can take quick options, so there's paths where you can choose where you don't activate every element, but it's enough to do a certain amount of damage, but then there's also longer paths where you can snake around, which really like open up the potential there. And I'm wondering what sort of extra elements we're going to see on that grid as the game progresses.
Yeah, as you explore the area, you do find these, I guess for lack of a better term, you pick up different hacks that then plot themselves on the grid. So it's a case of, as long as you move your line through that hack, you'll get extra damage, or it will reduce kind of like the defenses of the enemy. I'd be really interested to see just how kind of like weird and wild they get later on, or whether it is very purely just attack and defense kind of buffs and debuffs.
Yeah, at the end of the demo we also saw something a little bit more interesting in terms of combat, which was a big boss battle. He kind of looked like I forget the name, Ed something from RoboCop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we played it, I played it a little bit different to you. I was sneaking around the back and shooting a weak spot, but you were engaging it head on every time. Like,
yeah, there's definitely like those weak spots on the back, which I guess is a bit more of a traditional way you do a boss, right? Find the weak spot, shoot that, wait to get to the next stage. I went for like a full frontal attack, which did mean, I don't know if you had to hack through multiple layers of security, whereas like normal enemies you hack them once and then you can kill them. This guy required me to go like 3 or 4 different routes through there, but then I was able to overheat the enemy and then do kind of like effectively a quick time attack where Hugh would launch himself onto the back of the enemy and do kind of like, like 4,000 damage, blow armor panels off it.
We didn't really get to see much of what the story is or what these characters are. We just got a small introduction to them. I'm going to be honest, like, feels a bit uninspired at the moment, perhaps. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic of having a little android girl on your shoulder the entire time. There's a companion there, but I wasn't getting a sense of the relationship so far. What do you think we can see, maybe?
I sort of think, like, the smart thing I think about it is that the mechanics of the game build a symbiotic relationship between Diana the girl and Hugh the guy. They literally can't live without each other because one needs to hack and the other one needs to shoot. She can't damage and he can't damage without her. Whether that like builds into an interesting like narrative relationship, whether it, kind of like I think of characters like Joel and Ellie, they are very dependent on each other in The Last of Us, and that creates like an interesting perspective on that relationship. Whether this has that chops, we got to see if I could even say half a cutscene. It felt so minimal in what this demo had to offer. I hope there's a lot more to see, which will eventually pull me around on what are quite clinical characters at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the only thing that's clinical, right? The location that you're exploring is very, like, as you can see from behind us, it's very white, it's very sterile. We're not sure if that's going to be the entire game consists of that sort of stuff, but I was kind of like losing my way a little bit. There wasn't really a map system, but we did get to do a little bit of exploration, but I know I did, and you also found a little bit of a tricky time, like actually finding where the last thing we needed was.
Yeah, definitely. Like this demo is set on this lunar base, which is kind of breaking down, and you need to power up sections of the facility, and that's kind of all I got about what this facility did. I know that it is powered by something, but it's not like, so for example, when I think of like interesting derelict kind of space spaces, I think of something like in Dead Space when you're exploring that spaceship, and every area of it feels like it's, okay, I'm in the medical ward, I'm in the engineering bay. This feels a little bit more kind of like wholesale spaceship. There's no individual feeling of tailored environments, and that did mean that kind of like I lost myself a lot of the time. And without a map, like, you cannot open a map, you only have the ability to pulse the environment and add a waypoint, which isn't a waypoint that kind of retracts itself as you're going around. You just have to follow that as the crow flies, basically. Yeah. And I did find myself getting very turned around, sort of like returning to the same environments over and over and being like, I think I've been here, but I can't quite tell because everything feels a bit the same.
So interestingly, we also got a taste of a few weapons, and most of these demos you usually get the traditional weapons like a handgun equivalent, a shotgun equivalent, but there was also, I forget what it's called, but it was also one that sort of fired almost like a gravitational pull, or less a gravitational pull, but more like a freezing net action, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a stasis gun, and it shoots out kind of like a holographic dome net, I suppose, and the idea is that the enemies get caught in it, and I suppose the benefit there is why you may hack them and use the hacking minigame to stall the enemies to get them to stay in place so you can shoot them. This gun effectively does that for you and bypasses what maybe you'd need to do that through hacking.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see how many of those kind of like side function weapons exist in this game, because the other stuff that we had was a very basic 6-shot pistol, and it was called the shockwave gun. It was effectively like an energy shotgun.
Yeah.
Like, other than that, like fairly traditional weapon staples.
I do think that third weapon though really, like, it teases us with the idea that maybe this could be a game full of unique weapons and unique opportunities, and that's what I'm kind of looking for, really, because I already felt like a little bit of a samey action within a small slice, so I'm really hoping that the game can open out and go some weird places. I mean, it's a weird premise, right? You want it to go weird places.
Yeah, what I want to see is not just in like the other weapons, but in the environment design as well. There is a really cool idea at the center of this game, which is that let's take third-person shooting and augment it, like rethink how that works. We slow it down, we reduce the amount of enemies, but we make each enemy harder to defeat because you have to do this hacking minigame. I kind of want that sort of level of thinking everywhere through the game. I want the environment to require more thought. I want the weapons to not just be things that shoot bullets. I want them to have odd and interesting techniques that I have to use to make the most of them.
So that's everything we've learned about Pragmata. Obviously, we got to see some other Capcom games, and you know, stick around for the show. You're going to see more of that. And on our YouTube channel, you can check out more of our thoughts on Resident Evil Requiem and on Onimusha, Way of the Sword. But for everything else, Gamescom 2025, stick with IGN.